Thank you, Senator Leader, for bringing to the fore some critical information. And what was key in his presentation is how decisions made at the highest echelons of the executive of the government at the cabinet level impact you, the people. I just came from by my barber on a Sunday because I have a press conference and I Douglas politics later. So I had to neaten up the bald head and the little beard and thing. And I'm sitting there and the barber asked a gentleman, another client, what about politics, boy? What you think, how you find the country going? How you find this PNM going? And the gentleman said, listen to me, whatever government day, I have to wake up and go and hustle. I have to go and get my dollar. So it don't matter to me which government there. Well, while my barber was using the razor, which is dangerous, I had to talk to the gentleman. I said, sir, while that is true, and you have to hustle, you have to get out there, and you have to get a dollar to feed your family and to pay the bills. It is the government's responsibility to create an environment to allow you to operate at a maximum or an optimum level. If you are out there and you hustling and you get your paycheck and then you get robbed one block down the road, you then will suffer. If you get your paycheck and you pay your bills and you're driving down the road and you bust a tire and you have to buy a tire for $500, that's food off your children's table. If you go in the grocery and your salary is the same and you get no increase for 8 years and the government then offer you 001, you cannot make ends meet. So a government, especially in Trinidad and Tobago, is very critical. Senator Leader spoke about complex issues, about bonds. Don't get tired of that. Don't get frightened by that. That big language, but the raw effect of poor decision making by Keith Rowley, the PNM, and Colm Imber, the engineer who builds stadia that fall down, is that you have to suffer. That if you have a credit card, you could only get half your US. You have to suffer because if the businessmen and the importers can't get US, they have to go and buy it black market at a higher rate. Some buying at $8, $8.50, $9. Then you have to go now and pay higher at the grocery, at the shelves to make up for their increased cost. So politics impacts you in a great way. We are seeing now that Keith Rowley has advertised he's off on another jaunt at your expense to Dubai now. He's the traveling man, the golfing man, the tracksuit man. I want to know if he's leaving the country in a tracksuit because Ronald Saunders, a diplomat from Antigua, said, our prime minister representing us who didn't have a suit to wear. Look, I put on a suit on a Sunday, come from by the barber. You understand? When all you're going down to the beach. He didn't have a suit to wear because he was going to travel. What prime minister travels in a tracksuit crumple up like it end him dry clean? Like he just roll off a red couch. I would love to know. But these things impact our lives. So while Rowley's off to Dubai again, while our country is in total crisis across the board, the man who has been on the most holidays, the most golf course, the most traveling, who raised his per diem. So he getting a set of US, hundreds of US per day to buy food and so on at your expense. But you can't get US to go. You can't get US to pay your children tuition in university. And the PNM government is telling you that you are wrong for doing that. That you cannot, yes, I'm going to deal with that. That you cannot get any US at any time. You want to go and get a US, you have to go $50 at a time. If you need 1,500 US, old lady called me. She say, Anil, I have some TT. I want to buy some. I said, ma, what's the problem? They tell me I could only get 50 US per day in the bank. Anil are willing to pay X amount. I said, man, no. Listen, if they tell you again $50 a day in the bank, I'm very sorry. Take a deep breath, eat your breakfast, and go down the bank. If you need 1,500 US, go to the bank for 30 days and take out 50, 50, 50. Don't let anybody then go and abuse you. But this is how people are suffering from the policies of the government. But today I am going to show you all the abject, corrupt nature that is the PNM. From conception, from creation to now. through one element. I could give you 50 stories of corruption, what the PNM does. When Coleman but in 2010 looked across the parliament floor, when I threw some crosstalk for him and I said, boy, if we had sent 3 more Maxis up in Dago Martin Northeast, Gavin Nicholas would have beat you. Coleman but looked across at me and he grinned that grin and he leaned forward. So I leaned forward intently to hear what Coleman, but the member for Dago Martin Northeast, had to tell me. He looked at me straight in my eyes and said, well, next time I will campaign. And that hit me straight in my heart. And as I remember it like yesterday, because it was so true. He did not campaign. He had not campaigned. I walked Aberdeen, O'Meara, the entire constituency 5 times without a hat. By the time I finished walking, my picture was one shade of brown and I was dark black because hot sun, no cap, no shades, looking people in the eye. Campaign like I out of style, walking 11 hours per day, taking an hour rest, then talking whole night in spot meeting to win a seat to try and serve the people. Coleman but the PNM don't have to campaign, they say, and they still get 10,760 votes. That's why we are in a mess, because the PNM wins elections in certain ways. Since 1961, where they gerrymandered the boundaries and they lied to Capildeo at Marlborough House to tell him, sign this here, we'll get independent, and when we reach home, we'll have an independent agency and so on, design the country and divide it up. Dr. Williams lied then, Dr. Rowley lies now. That's what the PNM does. They get you to vote then on emotion, on race, who is African and who is Indian and who is this. We are none of the other. We are Trinbagonians, each and every one of us. Then the third thing they do through the mass media and their blurring of issues, you will see anytime the media say, Keith Rowley did nonsense, bad decision, Imbot, bad decision, Fitzgerald Hines, waste of time, Stuart Smallpin Young, waste of time, but the UNC, but Kamla, but Basdeo. They always have to try to placate and to equivocate. So that leaves most of you in a position that politics not important. What I going to vote for, you want to know why? Because anytime the voter turnout is in an election, a general election, below 62%, the PNM will win because they gerrymander and they control the EBC. So what do? They get that percentage of you to say, like my boy by the barber, Anil, it don't matter who in power, I have to hustle. No, your hustle has more oomph. Your hustle redounds to your benefit more when Kamla Prasad, Bissessa, and the UNC is in government, because you have cheaper products, inflation is lower, greater jobs, you're safer, you're getting robbed less, you're busting tire less, you have no new taxes, you have no VAT on goods, you have more grants, more food cards, you don't have to pay so much for education because Kamla is about gate 726 million as opposed to the PNM 285 million. You have fuel in your car with Kamla. Now you have to pay for gas. No regular gas. Diesel going up 200%. Premium going up 160%. Super going up 250%. These are things that impact you in your pocket. Because to put Rowley there instead of Kamla, a middle class family of 4 is paying annually between $40,000 and $80,000. Why? The PNM has created a system that they could dance into government, stay in power, corruptly take your money and tell you vote race and religion. And we fall for it each and every time. Let me tell you, today you open the papers and you see, yesterday and today, Rowley, he's incensed about $55 million wasted and called the DPP name. It's Rowley and the PNM who went and looked for a building. It's Rowley and the PNM who found a landlord who they like to find a building. It's Rowley and the PNM and the cabinet who decided on a monthly rental for the building. It's Rowley and the cabinet who signed the lease agreement with the landlord for the building. It's Rowley and the PNM who did not do the due diligence and did not get a building fit for purpose. It's not the DPP. The DPP has no authority so to do, but Rowley's incensed. That's 55 million of PNM corruption that Rowley comes out and pretends, oh, it's somebody else, because it's always somebody else. It's never Rowley. We also see 20 wooden bend up ladder that Fitzgerald et Elbert Hines woke up in time from his narcoleptic sleep to buy for $1 million. $1 million for Ben Wood. That's what the PNM is. And you have to understand that the PNM is the most corrupt organization, and they follow the same system, the same playbook over and over. And today, I'm going to tell you, because one of the worst, most corrupt, spanning 2 decades, 2 different PNM regimes is now erupting in their face, and men are scampering off the ship. And which direction the rat shall run, we don't know. But the PNM corrupt ship, the chickens are coming home to roost with something called Niquan or Niquan, however you want to pronounce it. But one thing it spells is PNM corruption. We see Mr. PNM, and I will give you a list of names and then we will go through it. I did all my notes here and so on, all of this. Right? But the story is so painful. It's so hurtful. And it's such a PNM corrupt manual that I will put down my notes and I will go straight from memory, because it's from my heart and it hurts. Understand this. Mr. Ainsley Gill, this story will deal with people like Ainsley Gill, Independent Senator David Small, Allison Due Diligence, Public Servant Extraordinaire, Permanent Secretary, Keith Rowley, Malcolm Jones, Stuart Smallpin Young, Faris Al-Rawi, Maxwell Coffey, Republic Bank, 120 million US. You heard Senator Leiter, pressure for US, yet your Republic Bank that you own, you have shares in, decided to give this company 120 million US, which is now flushed down the toilet. And who's going to have to pay that back? Whose interest rates, whose fees are going to have to go up? Yours. Whose share price is under pressure from this bad decision to loan this PNM nightmare, Niquan thing, $120 million. Republic Bank members, Republic Bank's board has to answer to you, the people, the shareholders, on how did they qualify, what was the collateral to allow them to get 120 million US loan. Now, coming there, this story will also involve Vincent Nelson, the Nelson Gate senior counsel, who was used by Faris Al-Rawi and Rowley to attack political opponents and to be paid to turn witness and to make lies on a statement and an affidavit against political opponents while being paid millions of dollars of your money. Nelson, this story will have many more people. It will involve Ken Julian, Patrick Manning, and the most important one, Malcolm Jones. Let's get to the story that is Niquan now, because Niquan, Ainsley Gill has said, and he's begging, if we don't get any money now, we're going to have to send home 70 workers. You can't get money. Carrie Chris just downgraded Niquan to don't lend them money. They have no ability to gain any, they have no revenue stream whatsoever. They've not produced one drop of diesel. They have no sales to be made. And the PNM Ainsley Gill is calling now, begging for somebody to lend them money. The rating, Carrie Chris said, by that December will go even further. It's already at red flag. No money to come. Niquan is under pressure. They're owing former independent senator. Now remember, the PNM controls institutions. They have independent senators who are beholden to the PNM. I don't understand how that is. You give me senior counsel, you ensure my next 30 years I can make an extra 100,000 a year, but I'm independent. I'm not beholden to you. I'm your friend. I'm on your boards. I follow your policy, but I'm not beholden to you. The PNM corrupts the word independent. We now have a president sitting in president's house who espouses the gospel of the PNM, and you all say, oh, she's independent. This is an amazing country we live in, because the PNM has been allowed to hoodwink us. So Niquan is now under pressure. It is on total collapse. The PNM Stuart Young is now trying to run and dissociate himself and Keith Rowley's government from NICWAN. The NICWAN owes over 300 million US dollars. Then each day they have a wage bill that they have not paid for 6 months. They owe in former independent Senator David Small 21 million TT to pay off. Their debts keep mounting and they're selling nothing. This is the PNM. But you know who's going to have to pay for it? You, the people. You see how serious politics is? Because this is a continuation. This is the final chapter in a nightmare that began in 2005 with the PNM, with something called World GTL. In 2005, from the brain of PNM Malcolm Jones came World GTL. They found this company that nobody knew about, but this is what PNM does. They find companies without track record, without processes, without due diligence, without anything, so that they can corruptly take your money at higher percentages. That's what the PNM does. Because the PNM's corruption is a way that your money disappears like Copperfield, like David Blaine, and nothing there to see. All you see any horse race in Carney yet? All you see anything in Project Pride? You have a mosquito crack. You seen things that ain't built. You see a commission of inquiry into Point Fortin Highway. It has start, but $11 million of your money from PNM, poof, gone. That's the PNM mantra. So 2005, they find this company, World GTL, just like how you saw Senator Wade Mark tell you they were planning to sell your refinery to 2 electricians in a house somewhere in California. Remember Wade Mark told you all that and Cat Spraddle that? That's the PNM way. That's how they found Bridgman's. Bridgman's had no office, but they have a Cobo Star boat there that you are paid for $234 million and counting, that Keith Rowley, who approved the money, said was crooked money. So he approved the crooked money, then call it crooked. He approved the $55 million for a building for rat to sit down and mosquito to sleep, and then come to say he vexed the DPP, but he approved it. That's the PNM way. So World GTL, they were supposed to come with this technology to turn gas into liquids and make diesel and so on. They signed contracts. Now the interesting thing is this Malcolm Jones, this PNM that Rowley, Al-Rawi, Stuart Young, and Maxi Coffey in 2016 took out of court immediately and upon swearing on the Bible to be the government. Malcolm Jones was an executive chairman of Petrotrin. What does that mean? That means that Malcolm Jones was taking decisions like a CEO. He didn't have to go through the normal board process, the normal minutes of meetings and have a majority of the board members agree and approve and so on. And Malcolm Jones signed a contract with this World GTL thing that no due diligence was done. Just like Ken Julian investing $31 million in Bamboo Networks, even though former minister in the Ministry of Finance of the PNM, Christine Sahadeo, had told him, do not invest. And $31 million of your money, poof. But now you have to pay taxes. You have to pay property tax. You have to pay online tax. You have to pay everything because the PNM throws away your money. And in this contract, it was supposed to be done and complete by July 12, 2009. And if it was not complete and producing diesel, then certain situations would have had to take place. And World GTL would have had to pay Petrotrin sums of money. But World GTL somehow, whoever they were very powerful and they were getting Malcolm Jones to say, you are supposed to pay me, but no, I will pay you. And Malcolm Jones took decision after decision. One of them was to guarantee the loan for World GTL to Credit Suisse of $600 million of your dollars, on top of $578 million of your dollars. And then they continued that way. And Malcolm Jones, the executive PNM chairman of Petrotrin, kept taking your money and bailing out World GTL, whoever they were, to the tune of $2.7 billion wasted down the drain with technology that did not produce anything. In comes Kamla Prasad Bisesa and Anand Ramlogan, and this needed to stop. Anand Ramlogan and the Attorney General and the office got Malcolm Jones into court and said this is wrong. They got advice from then senior counsel, Queen's counsel, Vincent Nelson. He was paid and he wrote a detailed analysis and advice of about 36 pages of why the case would go forward against Malcolm Jones and so on. It was a strong case. Let's flash forward to PNM email gate, pathological liar Keith Rowley becoming Prime Minister. And he putting and swearing on the Bible his email gate lawyer to be his #1 minister of everything, Mr. 85 recusals. Nearly like Lara could make runs, he could get recusals. And Mr. My Brother's Bank, little company that next to Frankie's where we drink rum, never got a public sector contract. In the first 4 years of Stuart Young swearing on the Bible to serve you, his brother CEO, the company CEO of, got $4.2 billion at an average interest rate of 5.2 to 6.4% of your money. The interest rates over 18 years, company will make at least 300 million of your dollars. Whatever percentage the CEO gets of that, you know, that's how they get their pay packages. That goes to Stuart Young's brother, Angus Young. Richard Young in charge of the IFC down there. IFC, International Financial Center, not a center, not an investment, not a nothing, but $15 million gone every year. And the former central bank governor drop out and he come out and he never tells us why. That's what the PNM do. They resign when they see wrong thing, but they stay quiet. Shh. And Denise Deming, shh. And all your chairman and people of the PNM, and former Minister Lahunt, shh. And Nicole Oliveri, who did an audit in Petrotrin and then was told that she was wrong to do the right thing, and where she is, shh. Don't talk. That's the PNM cult. So Malcolm Jones, you know who was Malcolm Jones' lawyer? When Anand Ramlogan got advice paid for, 36-page advice from Vincent Nelson saying strong case against Malcolm Jones. You know who defended Malcolm Jones? One Stuart Smallpin Young. Stuart Young was Malcolm Jones' lawyer. Then they come into government and Stuart Young is a minister, Rowley is the prime minister, Faris Al-Rawi is the attorney general, and Maxi Coffey is the Minister of Communications. And the PNM starts their Nelson Gate fiasco. And somehow they get Vincent Nelson to give an unsolicited, unpaid for advice of approximately 8 lines, 1 paragraph saying, hey, all my previous advice, don't worry about that. The case is good. All you take Malcolm Jones out. But here the joke in the PNM story. Nelson was writing the advice, the little paragraph. But the PNM so crony to get Malcolm Jones out, to protect the corrupt people, that before they get the advice in hand, Maxi Coffey of the PNM said, well, this case we're going to withdraw from that case. The advice had not been given, you know. Here read nothing but them know that they're going to withdraw. And you can go and see the Privy Council tape of the Privy Council basically not believing the kind of politics and the kind of corruption that took place in Trinidad and Tobago with the withdrawal by the PNM, by Keith Rowley, Faris Al-Rawi, Stuart Young, Maxi Coffey, and the PNM cabinet withdrew Malcolm Jones from that lawsuit to recoup 97 million pounds multiplied by 11 of your money. It didn't stop there. So the PNM talk about Kamla and Section 34, even though Kamla was in a government with UNC, COP, MSJ, TOP, and NJAC. But whatever Kamla, whenever an issue came up, Kamla Prasad Bisesa dealt with the issue. So the DPP wrote a 28-page letter, after being written to twice previously and saying nothing. What you all have done, this is dangerous. Kamla went to Parliament and fixed it. Kamla changes ministers who are not performing to her ability and what she would like. They perform better than the PNM. But do you know what the PNM tells you now? The PNM is stable because they leave Fitzgerald Hines there. They leave ministers there. Ministers who don't perform. Minister Gadsby Dolly, the worst performance in education in the last 3 years. But she is still there. And the PNM says that's stability, because the PNM is not about merit. They don't care about performance. They say you could be in a ministry, you could be performing at the worst level, but we leave you there. So we are stable in our incompetence. That's the mantra of the PNM. So they took their boy out of court. So what is to do now? There was a lady called Alison Lewis. She was the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Finance. Intelligent, brilliant woman. In fact, when I was a minister, any project we want to do, we want to bring women in coaching caravan, life sport program to come and get funding to help fellas put on the gun, get all the crime. You want to get rewards program for elite athletes. You want to increase funding for TT Pro League and for Super League and for football and swimming and water polo and archery. You had to go to something called F&GP with the Minister of Finance. And right at the right side of the Minister of Finance would be Alison Due Diligence Lewis, the Independent Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Finance. And she advised the government under Kamla Prasad Bisesa when the Minister of Energy and the Board of Petrotrin were asking what to do with this World GTL fiasco. Her advice was, that is bad money, that is bad debt, don't worry with that. But in comes the PNM on email gate lies of Rowley, and poof, Alison Due Diligence jumps out of the Ministry of Finance, and where does she jump? Straight onto the chairmanship of the Port Authority Board of the PNM, that started to procure and allow Rowley to say they couldn't find any vessels and so on. And when they found Bridgman's, that's where she gets the name due diligence, because she knows the finance rules. She knows about tendering. She created the principles of propriety and corporate governance. But yet Bridgman's could not have even qualified to be in a tender position because they did not have the wherewithal, the asset base, the history and so on. But somehow Alison Lewis, the maestro, the master, approved that, and Bridgman's crooked money is still running up to now. So she went onto the PNM Port Authority Board. She is also on the Republic Bank Board. And pertinently to this story, when World GTL assets were going to be sold to some company called Niquan, she was the vice chairman. She was on the board of Niquan. So let's see how much you, the people, have lost. You have already lost the 2.7 billion from Malcolm Jones' decision. That money gone. You then have 2.7 billion worth of assets, 400 million US worth of assets. The PNM is now in control, and the PNM Minister of Energy, Franklin Khan, you know what he does on instruction of Rowley's cabinet? He sells your assets worth 400 million US to Niquan, Ainsley Gill, Alison Lewis, and independent Senator former David Small for 35 million US. No. Wow, that's a good deal. You're getting 400 million US worth of assets for 35 million, but wait, it ain't done there. Only pay us 10 million in cash. And then we'll take shares in Niquan that we don't know who is Niquan, where they are. They have no track record. They've done nothing. We'll take 25 million worth in preference shares. Now, right now, your preference shares of Niquan are worth what? Absolutely nothing. They're not worth as much as toilet paper sitting in a commode. It's nothing. They're gone. They have no money. They're in total collapse. But who has to suffer? Who do the shares belong to? So PNM makes the decisions, and you, the people, suffer. But somehow it wasn't finished there. Because in order for Niquan, and you just heard Senator Leiter say it, we on flat gas, which means the bid rounds that Stuart Young and Rowley and the PNM over 8 years, that's why they're fighting down dragon gas with Venezuela now. So much so they cannot even support Guyana against Venezuela in what is coming on December 3rd. But that's a different issue. But they're running down gas because we are utilizing our proven reserves now. We have found no probable reserves, and we have no hope from Stuart Young. 18 bid rounds went, and only 2 bids came on 18 blocks. So there is no gas. Our gas is a diminishing resource, and it's going down. But do you know what the PNM did with your precious gas? They gave to Nikwan minister's share. What does minister's share mean? Mean the minister representing you, the people, swear on the Bible, the minister take your gas and say, Ainsley Gill, Alison Lewis, David Independent Small, here, you take this gas to produce. So the value that they were given of that gas is in the hundreds of millions of dollars.
Wow.
And it has produced nothing. Your gas has gone. That is gone forever. Your children would never get that gas back. That is the PNM, and that is Nikwan. Nikwan came up. They start to try to produce. Wax build up, it blow up, and nearly blow up all a point up here in people's houses. Then a man from Massey, Massey PNM to Massey Jervis Warner, they get a contract to work there because everything had to share one way with PNM. They take all of your votes without campaigning, and then they take your money, wean you off of it, and put it specifically to friends and financiers. So Massey Gas now gets some contract with Nikwan, and it's so unsafe that a worker dies. So on top of all of this, there could be lawsuits against Nikwan that will ensure that they break forever. This is the corruption that is the PNM. But now, the major pain coming to you, on top of your 2.7 billion lost, your 25 million in preference shares US that is at zero, your 10 million cash lost, your gas, hundreds of millions of dollars in gas lost. Now, Nikwan cannot pay back the 120 million US loan that they got from Republic Bank. I am asking the board of directors of Republic Bank and shareholders, you all can take these questions. Anil doesn't ask these questions on behalf of myself and the UNC. I ask it on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, because there are certain procedures, certain calculations that have to go into risk mitigation and approval for loans, especially loans of the magnitude of 120 million US. Who approved that loan? What was the collateral given in furtherance of that $120 million US loan? Republic Bank. So Nikwan cannot pay that loan now. What you're going to take? The asset that is worth nothing, that blowing up, that is decimated, that is not producing, but was only valued at 35 million US anyway. So even if it was pristine, you're still short 85 million US. Who is going to pay for that? What is going to happen to the share price of Republic Bank? Which heads will roll? How was that able to happen when people, SMEs, as Senator Leiter said, they have to go through stringent processes to get a loan, 10,000 loan, to do a little business? You have to go and see the mother house, the father house, the wife house, the girlfriend house. You have to go and check in between the teeth if they have gold in the mouth, where they have to go to get that loan. How is it, Republic Bank, that this PNM Nikwan that started with Malcolm Jones, that started with Patrick Manning, that was produced and prolonged by Stuart Young and Keith Rowley and Faris Al-Rawi, provided legal advice by Nelson Gate lawyer? How were they able, with Alison Lewis being on the board of Republic Bank, how were they able to get that loan? These people want to know, because the people's money has gone again from 2005 to 2023. The PNM corruption spans that entire period, and the people must foot the bill. And this PNM who takes those decisions, then telling you, property tax coming, we've come in and it's not so much. It's in the smaller houses, it's $54 if you have no money. If you're owing more than you're making in a month, $54, $100, $200, you don't have the money to pay it. They take your gas, your fuel subsidy. They now come in to tell you, you must pay more for electricity bill. And Keith Christopher Rowley has the unmitigated gall, the temerity, and the disrespect to tell citizens that he telling TNTech to put the real cost of electricity The PNM believes that the oil and gas is their own. The PNM under Rowley believes that the oil and gas belongs to him and Stuart Young. That's why they went to Houston and negotiated, and 11 companies, as Senator Leida told you, in Point Lisa shut down. They moved Point Lisa's from 78% capacity under Kamala Persad-Bissessar down to 18%. Trinidad and Tobago is in a forex crisis, not because of increased demand, but because of disappearing supply. Because Colm Imbot is the worst Minister of Finance in the history of the Western Hemisphere. The PNM does this and then tells you to pay. They come and tell you, go and pay more for electricity. Why? Because they say other countries pay more. Other countries are not blessed to be born with the red, white, and black. Kamala Persad-Bissessar, when she was Prime Minister, the same sort of advisors, the Alison due diligence Lewises of the world, came to her on 4 occasions that I was present and said, ma'am, this fuel subsidy that you are paying for the people of Trinidad and Tobago to get cheaper gas, super premium, and diesel in the car, and regular for fishermen especially, that is an inefficient use of resources. You need to cut away that fuel subsidy, and then you will be able to have more discretionary spending on where you want to spend it. And Kamala Persad-Bissessar looked at those intellectuals in the financial system and said, do you believe that the resources of Trinidad and Tobago belong to each and every child born and holding a passport and a birth paper of Trinidad and Tobago? They said, She said, not, I'm asking you a question. What do you believe? They said, yes. She said, well, if you believe that as I do, Kamala said, then the best distribution and the most fair distribution of the oil and gas of this country is in the fuel subsidy. Because whether you have a car or not, you benefit. Food prices lower, medicine prices lower, transportation costs lower, bus price lower, maxi price lower, P-taxi lower. That is so everybody could share in the resources. The PNM is the anti-Kamala. The PNM's position is, you must not have a subsidy. You must pay more for your tea and tech. You must pay more for your water. Why? So that Rowley, Small Pin, Maxi Coffee, Ainsley Gill, Alison Lewis, Malcolm Jones, deceased, alive, or whatever, the money is still alive somewhere, that they could then take their own money and spend it as they wish. Hospitals, you get no Panadol, you get no oncology drugs, you can't get dialysis. But Rowley's favorite contractor get $162 million to build a fancy building for them to cut ribbon. That's what they do. The PNM and Kamala are different. Kamala uses the resources for you. The PNM uses your vote to allow the most corrupt decisions to take place for you to get no value for money and then tell you they're coming to tax you more. Politics is a very serious thing. You all need to get involved. This Nikwan fiasco has touched the people of Trinidad and Tobago like no other corrupt practice of the PNM, whether it was Tesoro, Lockjoint, Mount Hope, Financial Complex, Brian Lara, Greenvale, Renaissance, Emailgate, Bridgman's, whatever the corruption, this World GTL, Malcolm Jones, lawyer represented by Stuart Young, Keith Rowley, putting him on the Energy Committee and continuing him, Ainsley Gill, independent senators, public servant, former public servant and permanent secretary, Alison Lewis, straight up to Vincent Nelson King's counsel, corrupt to the core. The people suffer, and now you must pay the bill. The only way to stop this PNM corrupt means, this web of corruption, is to put Kamala Persad-Bissessar as Prime Minister. Corporate governance is about putting more eyes and ears and hearts on your money to protect it. Kamala Persad-Bissessar said one person for one board, one chairman for one board, no family members of ministers on any board. Rowley says, my lawyer, personal lawyer, 3 boards. My best friend of 50 years, who play golf with me, who is in charge of Paria and leave 4 men in a pipe to die and suffocate for 39 hours, he must be on 7 boards. Another one who's my Inez Gate neighbor, she must be on 9 boards, Ingrid Lashley. And the Inez Gate neighbors, including the now central bank governor Alvin Hilaire, who only is the central bank governor because Keith Rowley and Colm Imbert fired Jawala Rambaran. And you now have to pay Jawala $7.5 million. You want to know why the PNM fired Jawala? Because Jawala was talking about this foreign exchange situation from since 2016, that the big boys, the rich were getting richer and the small man would suffer. He predicted it, and now 10,000 small and micro enterprises do not exist because the people, the media, and us, the citizens, we did not stand with Jawala. We allowed Imbert and Rowley to fire a man who was patriotic and had the country's best interests at heart. And now we are suffering. The PNM is the most corrupt regime in the history of the Caribbean, and they must go. There is a difference between the UNC and the PNM.